for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh. This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 237 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we're presented by the Going for Two Live Podcast Network. We're live every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, syndicated in all major podcast networks, and we're also on the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. Real quick, I just wanted to mention, if you are on Twitter, the Twitter comments are not working. So if you want to interact with the show, you need to go to either YouTube or Twitch. Facebook users, unfortunately, Facebook has got some weird privacy things, so you only show up on my screen as Facebook user. I don't know how to fix that, so if you want us to interact and know who you are, jump on YouTube or on Twitch. Let me introduce my co-hosts. As always, I got Gerson and Tim here. Gerson showed up a little bit late, but he made it, and he came with the full set of beers, too. What's up, Gerson?
Well, if you do the math, it's actually like 8 set of beers. These are big boy beers.
The big boy beers.
No, what's up, guys? I wasn't late. I was actually here like 20 minutes before. I know these guys were talking by themselves. I just didn't know about it. No, man. It's exciting, man. I like I tell you every week now for like the last 2 weeks, I just keep getting sadder and sadder because the NFL season's going away.
Closer and closer to the end.
At least we know we have 18 weeks this year, right?
Yeah, 18 weeks. Yep.
So
how is it week 10, fellas? I can't believe it.
I know. It's insane.
I looked at the schedule this week. I can't believe it. But yeah, man, I'm back for another week, ready to get going. Feeling really good this week, man. I was telling Jeff, I was thinking beforehand, man, this might be a week you might want to push in your chips.
Push them to the middle. Let's do it.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
All right, I don't even know how the hell we're going to rewind week 9, because, man, week 9 was the weirdest fucking week I can remember in the longest time. Tim, how did your lineups do, though? Were you able to cash still?
I was, yeah. No, I didn't cash well. I don't really play cash games anymore. I told you guys I play a lot of single entries and league lineups and stuff like that. I did not do well in my main lineup, if you will, but I had a lot of Lamar lineups last week, and that was kind of the key to cashing. So I didn't do too bad overall.
Not too bad. Gerson, what about you, man?
I'm gonna tell you how week 9 went. You see Men in Black? There you go.
Nice.
Just forget about it. It didn't happen.
I like it. I actually.
It wasn't good. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It wasn't good. But you win some, you lose some. But hey, at least that week before week 9 was actually really bomb diggity. So, but week 10 wasn't that great. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I told you my plays and they didn't hit. Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, they shit the bed.
Yeah,
but
they definitely did.
It is what it is,
Definitely. Yeah, I actually got lucky because I do play a lot of cash games, and I basically balanced my GPPs with my cash, and I had one guy that saved my lineup. He was low owned in cash, and that's Mr. Keenan Allen. I think I called on the show that he'd have like 11 catches, 150 yards. Ended up with 12 catches and 105 yards. So he saved all my cash lineups, thankfully, in those late games. So I ended up being okay with my cash games. Thank God for Keenan Allen, that's for sure. All right, fellas, let's get into it.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, let's jump right into the top tier here, Tim. Who do you got as your top tier quarterback this week?
Yeah, so it seems like most weeks this year, if you've cashed, especially if you've won tournaments, you've done it with Ram stacks or Buck stacks. Well, this week there's no Rams on the schedule, so we're going to the GOAT, Tom Brady, baby, 7,600. I love the Brady stacks this week. If Godwin doesn't play, I'm not concerned. I still love Brady stacks this week. Washington cannot stop anybody. I think either way it's going to be an absolute feast for Mike Evans. So my favorite quarterback this week is Tom Brady.
Good stuff. And we had a little comment in the chat here. It must be a new listener, but I think it's Shlomo. I don't know how to pronounce that first name, but he's asking about seeing our lineups, that after the fact. And if you're in the Facebook group, I don't know if you are or not. If you're in the DFS Armchair Facebook group, we do post our lineups after the fact to show you how we did, and we break down and sort of go through what we got right and what we got wrong. And then Tim's also very good about posting a lot of stuff pre-game, different metrics and such that you can use to build your lineups as well, because everything changes. I mean, we do a show on Friday, and by Sunday, things could be totally different if we have a few injuries, stuff like that. So definitely join the Facebook group if you're not already in there.
Thing, I'm just letting you know there's a lot of free tool where you can go see how we did. RotoGrinder Result DB. You can check me out. My name is on DraftKings is GBoxer23. Find me on a lot of tournaments. But yeah, I mean, I'm not one of those people going to hide behind the doors and cross my leg and be a pussy about it. Like, I lose.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Gerson, who do you got for your top tier quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going right back to the well, man. Like, Mr. Dak Prescott. I think we all got. I mean, I don't know if you guys played him, but I know I did.
Yeah,
and I played a lot of him. I got burned by him. I'm not gonna hide from it, but I'm going right back to it, man. In this game environment against the Atlanta Falcons aren't a great defense, and shockingly, the offense is not bad. They've done pretty well to keep up with scores with other teams. And Matt Ryan, I mean, if you ever seen a quarterback that's been washed up at the end and still making bang for his bucks, it has to be Matt Ryan because he's making the best of it with what he has. I mean, Calvin Ridley, God bless you, brother. But, I mean, when you have guys like Tajay Sharp and Russell Gage and
say his name.
Boy, OZ.
Yeah, say his name, Tim. You got his name right.
It's tough out there for him.
It's tough out there for him, but I think that Prescott in this game environment, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him because I think in this game, I can't. This is the only game that I can see that's getting back and forth into a shootout.
Yeah.
This week is kind of rough. I mean, this week is rough, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, this week, I'm like, where am I going to go for GPP? And this was the first game that popped up in my head. Yeah,
it's funny because I think tournaments is going to be tough. But me and Tim were talking pre-show how cash games are basically writing themselves right now. I mean, you're going to have a ton of Dearness Johnson. You're going to have a ton of Deontay Johnson, and who are we talking about?
We'll talk about it later. Yeah, we'll get there. We get to running back.
We're gonna have Ty Johnson, Marcus Johnson,
all Johnson lineup. All right, so the only
I'll tell you one guy not named Johnson that I really like this week.
Go ahead.
That's Justin Herbert. This is a guy that was in, I believe, the Millie Maker lineup last week, and I'm going to go right back to him again this week against the Vikings. The Vikings have given up an absolute ton of yards on the ground and through the air, and I think that this could be a perfect spot. Like you said, Keenan Allen, we'll talk about him. I love him in this spot again. But one thing you guys know I like to pay attention to is Vegas lines. So the Cowboys line went up 3 points from 51.5 to 54.5. This game went up 5 from 48.5 to 53.5. So Vegas is definitely thinking this is going to be a potential shootout. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to this game. And Justin Herbert showed, he can get a little rushing touchdown in there too. So I think he's such a good play again this week.
Yeah, I've got Dak in my lineup or in my top tier as well as the GOAT Tom Brady. The only guy that we haven't talked about yet, Josh Allen versus the Jets. I mean, not much we need to say about that. It's Josh Allen. He's going to get rushing upside. He's going to hopefully have a bounce back week after a terrible week versus Jacksonville last week. Just brutal. One stat that I had on Dak that I wanted to just give. Dak leads the league right now with 13 touchdowns when he's being blitzed. and the Falcons blitz 47% of the time, which is top 7 in the league. So when Dak gets blitzed, he takes shots. So that definitely helps his value here. And I think with Gallup being back too, we'll talk about him later on. Gallup comes back this week, I believe, so he'll be another big shot down the field. All right, let's move down into the mid-tiers, and I'll go to you this time first, Gerson. Who you got for your mid-tier?
For mid-tier, I have only one guy. I mean, there's only one guy I'm really targeting in the mid-tier, and that's Mr. Carson Wentz. I feel like I talked about this guy, for like the last 3 weeks now. But, I mean, you're not going to find a Carson Wentz lover, and neither will I be that guy. I just like him, you know. No, it's just his price is very great. I mean, it's very good. 5.9K. He's coming in as my number one value quarterback right now. I have him projected for almost 21 points, which is pretty high compared to probably other people. But I just love the matchup against Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are one of the worst defenses in the league, and their offense is not that great. I mean, they're going to have James Robinson maybe, and then I don't even know what's the update on Trevor Lawrence. Is he good to go?
Yeah, I think he's good to go. He's still listed as questionable, but I think he'll play.
Okay, so that's great. So he's good to go, but either way, Carson Wentz is going to get his point at 5.9 value, and he has been pretty good. Lately, he's been developing some really good rapport with Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and Mo Alley Cox, or whatever tight end is there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I know we always laugh about that because Chef loves to Mo Alley Cox.
That's his boy.
That's his boy. But, I mean, Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, I love the Jaguars because they're showing heart. Like, they're going to go out there. They know Urban Meyer's not going to last at the end of the year, but they're going to go out there and perform and try to do their best. But when they beat the Buffalo Bills...
Yeah, that's their Super Bowl right there.
Yeah. And I was going to say, were y'all watching NFL Game Day? I think it was last week. They were doing it from the Naval Academy, and there was one guy in the background that was holding a sign that said the Jaguars were going to beat the Bills.
Wow.
And, like, at the end, they interviewed him, and they were like, dude, you know, you must be the biggest Jaguars fan ever. And he's like, yeah, man, I knew my team could do it because we got Trevor Lawrence and an awesome defense. And they were like, back to you.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even know what to say. He was the only guy in the world who knew that was going to happen.
That's funny.
Hey, man.
I only have one other guy on the list, the guy that Gerson talked a little bit about earlier, Matt Ryan. Him and his cast of characters are going to have to find a way to keep up with Dallas, and I don't think it's going to be in the run game. So he's going to have to throw. We know he's cheap. I think he's $6K, and I think it sets up as a spot where he's going to have to throw the ball 40-plus times. So in that spot, I like him as a cheaper option. But, I mean, we talked about Dak. He's only 900 less than Dak, and on a slate like this with all the value, it's going to be hard for me to think that you can't find that 900.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that one. Dak is pretty much locked into most of my lineups. So moving down to the value tier, I had Taysom Hill originally listed, had to cross him out because he's not starting now. So I don't have any other value quarterbacks. Gerson, you have one guy listed there, and I'm surprised I don't have him on my list because, you know, he was always my favorite guy. But you got Mr. Heineke on that list. Talk about Heineke real quick.
Hey, man, you know, like... I'm a GPP guy, right? So, like, I try to find a low-owned quarterback that can take off, and I think Heineke can be that guy this week that I'm trying to get a lot of exposure to. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of scary, but it is. I don't know, like, I want him, but I don't want him. But
I mean, in truth, too. That Bucks defense is kind of a funnel defense. They're going to stop the run, and the football team's going to have to pass. Exactly. So I agree 100%.
Somebody else who I knew said that they liked Heineke, and I was like, man, Jeff didn't even put him on the list. So if Jeff didn't do it, I can't put him on my list.
Yeah.
But now people like him. There must be a good reason.
So one thing I'm looking at is just, okay, I always try to make, like, when I create GPP rosters, I try to make a story out of it. And you guys know this because I say this so dumb sometimes too. Like, people like, make a story out of a lineup? Yes, you got to. So Tampa Bay gets ahead, right? What's going to happen? Garbage time. I think Taylor Heineke can do it with the cast he has.
Yeah.
Ricky Seals-Jones, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson going to get the pass catching role with J.D. McKissick. Like, I think he can do it. Even if I'm not looking for like 25 points here, I'm looking for 18 points.
Yeah,
if you can give me those 18 points at 5.4K, I'm hitting value. So it's not pretty this week for quarterback like cheap value. Like I'm letting you guys know the only position that's like pretty this week, or even handsome, or even beautiful, or like Instagram model hot is running back position. That's it. You know, ain't nothing else better this week. But I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, I like Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, I'm
very happy.
I don't mind that call. Actually, I do think that you got some good points there, and like I said, the Bucs' run defense is going to stop that run. They're going to be forced to pass, and I think the Bucs' pass defense is nowhere near as good as their run defense. So Heineke can definitely move the ball on them. All right, let's get to the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, so we all have the same top-tier tight end. There's only one top-tier tight end.
There's only one.
Tim, I'm going to go to you first because I think you've done the most research of all of us. So you probably have a little bit more than me and Gerson do.
Well, no, I mean, it's just a situation where there's no Waller, there's no Kelsey. Like, Kyle Pitts is just on an island in this spot against Dallas, who have been bad against tight ends all year. This has been a way you've been able to attack them. And I think 20th, right, DVP against tight ends. And I mean, who's he going to throw it to, right? That's I think that in this situation, because Randy Gregory isn't going to play, I think they're going to have to use Micah Parsons more in the run game. In the run game as a rusher, and so that's going to force Kyle Pitts on somebody like, backup linebacker, and it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yep.
I think he's going to absolutely feast in this spot. We talked earlier. There's a value you can find in other spots this week. This might be a pay up at tight end league.
Yeah, they don't happen very often.
If you get Pitts in your tournament lineups, he can give you a ceiling that nobody else on this slate can give you.
Agreed.
That's the thing, though. Are you really paying up for Kyle Pitts? I don't think that's a pay up. Based on the slate we're on,
right?
But I think people have to take away
if Kelsey and Kittle and Waller are on the slate, he'd be like fourth or fifth, basically. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pay up on this slate because he's the highest priced tight end, but it's not a true pay up. I agree.
Yeah, it's just because we all got in the habit of paying like $3 to $4K for a tight end. So you're like $6K. You're like, is his
feels
name
like a
Kelsey?
lot.
No. Oh.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
You're right about that. Yeah, and you said that there were 20 DVP. They're also dead last in DVOA versus the tight end. So I mean, the Cowboys just don't defend the tight end very well, and even Pitts plays tight end. He also plays slot receiver sometimes too. So I do agree. I think this could be a pay up week. Let's move down into the mid tier, and I'll go to you first, Gerson. Who do you have on your mid tiers?
I think I'm going to go to Dan Arnold. I mean, I feel like this guy's been one of the most underrated tight ends this year. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence has been targeting him quite a bit, and I think he had 10 points last week. He had 14 points the week before, but the thing is, he has 17 targets.
Yeah.
So what do we want out of our tight ends? We want target and targets in the red zone, and he gets targeted in the red zone too. But he's been almost the same salary that he's going to be this week, and he's hit value pretty much 3 times.
Yep.
So I'm going to go right back to him. And Dan Arnold, with Laviska Shenault, I mean, I thought he was a special player. I was so wrong on that. He doesn't impress me. He's not the NFL type of wide receiver that can't take over the top. I think, I'm kind of out on him now. DJ Chark, whoever there, it's just Dan Arnold to me. I mean, they traded for him, and he's doing great so far. So I'm going to go Dan Arnold, and he's coming in at almost 18.5% ownership. That's the number one highest ownership.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean,
it's tough.
Pretty much a cash game, and this week, I'm telling you, tight end's not pretty.
It's not pretty at all.
Obvious position. So.
It's not at all. Tim, who do you got in your mid tier?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pat Fryermuth. I think this is a guy who has really started to gain the trust of Big Ben over the last couple of weeks. We know his arm is done, right? He can't throw it more than 10 yards downfield, and I think that's perfect for Fryermuth. And they're using him in the red zone, which is the biggest thing that you want for a tight end. He had 7 targets, 6 targets. Those are his last 3 weeks, and he's still only 3,900. I know it looks like Eric Ebron may play in this game, but I'm not concerned. I think they're going to be able to score easily on Detroit, and 3,900 allows you to pay up for a lot of the other stuff. So I think that's probably going to end up being my tight end this week.
Nice. And Scott in the chat, in the YouTube chat, says the moose is loose. I like it.
Is loose.
The moose is loose. I love it.
Isn't there a beer called the Moose?
Is there?
I don't know.
Yes. Maybe it might be in Utah though.
That's just a Utah beer.
All right, so in my mid-tier, I got two other guys we hadn't talked about. I got Schultz at 5K versus Atlanta. You know, we obviously mentioned the Dallas game a couple of times there. I also have Dawson Knox coming back against the Jets. That offense doesn't look the same without Dawson Knox, sort of filling that role in the tight end position. So I think Josh Allen getting his safety blanket back in is going to help that offense. At 4.5, he's definitely worth the shot there. I also have Fryermuth too. I wish Ebron wasn't playing. Go ahead.
That's a great GPP play. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even look at that until now. But Dawson Knox at 4.5K, he's coming in at 1% ownership. So Josh Allen's gonna sling it.
Yep.
And Dawson Knox definitely could be a very good GPP play. Sorry, Jeff. Go on.
And
No,
then
you're
bottom
good.
10 against tight end too.
Anytime you want to cut me off and compliment me on my plays, I'll let you do that.
I was gonna say, do you want me to be a dick?
All right, let's move down into the value tiers. In the value tier, man, I had a hard time finding anything that I really loved in the value tier. I'll go to you first, Tim, this time. What do you have in your value?
Yeah, it's a guy I played last week, and I'm going to go ahead and go right back to him again this week, and that's Tyler Conklin. He's in that same range as kind of Dan Arnold, and I think Dan Arnold may probably be the cash play, but I like Conklin because the Chargers have actually given up a good amount of points to tight ends, and again, his targets have been consistent. Last 3 weeks, 7 targets, 5 targets. So he hasn't gotten that touchdown. I think, I don't know if he's due, but, he's getting the usage that you need to get those touchdowns. So, he's paid off even without the touchdowns just on volume. And again, he's super cheap at $3,400, so you can pay up a lot of other places. So I think he's a good, cheaper option if you need to save a few $100s and get down.
Good stuff. Yeah, and I just saw Gerson changing his value tight end to the same guy that I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you talk about him, Gerson.
No, it's just there's a couple of things I like for breakfast: beer, punami, if you can figure that out, and some OJ orange juice. Mr. OJ Howard, man, I think Howard he's a freak athlete. First off, came out of Alabama, and I think for the first time, in 2 years since he's been in the NFL, he's finally starting to get established when he gets the opportunity. And Robin Gronkowski's out.
Yep, and AB's out, and possibly Godwin's out too.
Yeah, most likely. He's not out. I think he's questionable.
Is he playing? He's questionable. I said he's possibly out. He hasn't practiced all week.
Yeah.
Hey, don't do that to me, Jeff.
Yeah. That's why Evans is
I will say one thing, Jeff. We were going to talk about this earlier, but I love the fact that we do a Friday night show. I've talked about it before. So much news dropped today that if you have a Wednesday show or a Thursday show, it's irrelevant.
It's obsolete already. Yep.
We'll talk about it later. But the whole slate changed today.
It did, definitely.
So all of it. I'll say it. I listen to podcasts from other networks and stuff. I want to see what they're going to say, what their opinion is. And all of a sudden I'm like, it don't matter. But today with breaking news after breaking news after breaking news, running back. Preview, spoiler alert, sorry. But yeah, OJ Howard, 2.7K, and he's coming in at 1% ownership. That's crazy for me. And I get it because people are probably going to play Cameron Brate. I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to the OJ Howard because I think he's the more upside. I'm a GPP player, so I'm going to go for the upside.
Agreed.
OJ Howard makes that ceiling.
Yeah, Brate's more of the catch it and fall down tight end. OJ Howard is the catch it and take it to the house tight end. So I definitely want that in my lineups for sure. All right, let's get to the money position this week.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, Gerson, you've been talking about running backs since the beginning of the show, so let's go to you first here. Who do you like the most on your top tier here?
Man, I almost called off for work today in the morning because I'm like, oh man, how am I going to digest running back? Nope, guess what? Because I was going to say Jonathan Taylor right from the start, And that's where we start. Jonathan Taylor. It starts there and ends there. Jonathan Taylor, as Jeff knows, I love this guy from Dynasty. I love him from DFS. And he's 8.1K. He's going to be one of the highest owned running back at 23%. He projected for me for almost 23 points. And that's the thing. Like, I tell people this. Jacksonville Jaguars, he has a history. He ran over them last year. I mean, he had his career game against them, guys. Like, and he's just going to keep getting better and better. Last week, he had 172 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that was his, season high this year. But I'm telling you guys, we've seen the ceiling. It's only going to get better. This guy, he's special. And I hate to say this because Saquon Barkley was supposed to be special. He's supposed to be what Saquon Barkley was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But healthy.
Agreed.
Oh, Tim, don't do that to me. Don't win. Okay. I love Jonathan Taylor in this matchup. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. He's probably going to be my highest owned running back this week. He's going to be my guy this week. I love him. I'm going to be all in on him. I can't lock him in, though. Like, he's not Mr. Derrick Henry. He's not Mr., just lock him in. But I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him.
Good deal. What about you, Tim? Who do you have for your favorite top tier?
Well, nobody is worse against the run than the Los Angeles Chargers. So my favorite running back this week is going to be Mr. Dalvin Cook. I agree with Gerson. I think that there are 3 guys that are kind of on their own tier at the top, and then everybody is kind of below that. I think you have the other guys, so you can talk about him. But I talked about it earlier in the show how much I love Justin Herbert. I think that game is going to shoot out. They're giving up over 5 yards per carry. The only thing I don't like about Dalvin Cook is he hasn't been used as much in the passing game this year as I'd like. It's kind of been, around 3 to 4 targets a game when you want to see that closer to 5, 6, 7. But, I mean, they're giving him so much volume on the ground that it really makes up for it, and they use him a ton in the red zone as well. So, I think this just sets up as a huge game for Dalvin Cook.
And you kind of set me up perfectly because I was going to use Dalvin Cook as an example. So Dalvin Cook last week, typical week for Dalvin Cook, had 20 touches, which is a pretty good week for a running back. Christian McCaffrey last week played 50% of the snaps and still had 18 touches in those 50% of the snaps. So he's actually one of my top plays at 8.4. I think he'll be lower owned because people are expecting him to be Christian McCaffrey of old.
Hands down.
What was that?
Oh, hands down, he's gonna be way low owned.
Yeah, he's gonna be super low owned. He's the highest price at 8.4. But I mean, even if he plays 60% of the snaps, more than he played last week, at that same rate of touches, I would take that all day long. Like I said, he had almost as much touches as Dalvin Cook in half of the snaps. So at 8.4, the other guy is a pretty chalky guy too. And Tim, I'll let you talk about Naji Harris a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've been able to run the ball against the Lions all year. And this guy's volume has been insane. One of the things you mentioned I always do in my thread every week is percent of running back touches. He's been absolutely dominating the running back touches for Pittsburgh, over 90%. He's been getting 25, touches a week on average. That volume is just incredible. And he's 7,900. So, you have kind of 3 guys that are all in that 8K range. I think, and we'll talk about it here in a minute, but I think most people this week are going to either be playing one of those guys and 2 cheap guys, or 2 of those guys and 1 cheap running back.
For sure, lock it in 1 cheap guy.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So it's going to be at least 1, if not 2. So, you'll see a lot of those guys mixed and match, and I think you can play. But I love Naji Harris so much this week.
Yeah.
We saw, was it Boston Scott and Jordan Howard put 4 touchdowns on this Lions team. So, he's getting the volume. He could just absolutely break out. So, he's a great play as well.
Yep, I love that call. All right, Gerson, let's move down to the mid-tier. Who you got?
Jinx. I love that call. Running back so freaking awesome this week. Like, honestly, running backs, I just look at it and I just kept listing players on our running back sheet. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to run out of room sooner or later. And then I started looking, and Jeff and Tim know this. I don't look at their players. I do my own sheet, and then I copy and paste it into their sheet. And I'm like, holy crap. All of our running backs are basically the same.
Yeah, exactly.
But, no, I mean, this week, one of the guys I like is that you guys didn't have was Aaron Jones. I was kind of shocked about it. With the news of Aaron Rodgers having COVID. Hold on, Tim. Do you support Aaron Rodgers or not? I'm just kidding. No. We're not get political on this shit.
Nope. No, sir.
No.
I do think he will be back for this game.
I
do think there's a good shot he'll be back.
I agree. I think Aaron Rodgers will be back. And here's the reason, one of the biggest reasons why I'm on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that he takes shit personal. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely does.
He's gonna want to score 35 to 40 points on this game. He didn't play 1 week. He wants to be an MVP this year. You know, like he's gonna be like, all right, well, let's go out there and just get in the red zone. And Aaron Jones, dude, like, he's 6.9K. That's awesome. And Aaron Jones is a great pass-catching running back.
Yep.
And we've seen this in before. And this is what they struggle against. And I'm going to go with Aaron Jones. You know, a lot of pass-catching running back, like catching and stuff. But to me, it's this. Rodgers is going to throw the ball. And Aaron Jones, he's going to catch a lot of them. He's going to get a touchdown. He's not going to be able to run the ball on this team. Like,
they're going to use the hell out of him in the passing game, that's for sure.
Yeah, in the pass-catching game. Yeah, I mean, like, to me, 6.9K for Aaron Jones, I feel like Detroit Lions all over again when he had like that 40-point game earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. I feel like this could be a same situation, and that's why he was one of my favorite mid-tier plays. I mean, I think you're gonna, and he's low owned too. So if you go to him, and then you can go to I'm not gonna say his name.
We'll wait till we get to the values. Tim, what do you want to talk about in the mid-tier?
Yeah, so this is the first week that I'm actually sad that Cordarrelle Patterson is listed as a running back because we just can't play enough running backs this week, and I think he's in such a good spot. So going into today, it was going to be, for me, one of the value running backs, one of the top-tier guys, and then Cordarrelle Patterson. And now I don't know if I'm going to play him in cash anymore. I still think he's going to be one of my favorite tournament plays because the way that you get to Dallas a lot of times is with these guys coming out of the backfield. I don't think that they'll be able to run on them, which we don't really care about his run game usage. We want him for that pass game usage.
Yep.
And we know that they use him around the red zone as well. I just think that as a weapon, he sets up so well against the Dallas team. And at 6.6K, he's going to fall in that mid-range where not as many people will be paying this week as normal. So, yeah, I wish he could be flex. I wish he was a wide receiver, but I'm still going to find some ways to get him in some lineups as a running back.
Yeah, I like it. Gerson, I'm going to go back to you because you got two guys on your list that isn't on mine nor Tim's list, Leonard Fournette and DeAndre Swift. Talk about those two guys.
Well, for DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams?
He's out.
Yeah, he's out.
He's out. So, to me, I'm going right back to DeAndre Swift. I think this guy is a top 5 running back, and I don't care what Thomas said or anybody else says. I think this guy, even if they get behind from Pittsburgh, he's game script proof. He's going to be pass catching running back. He's coming at 12% ownership, so he's going to be owned, and he's smashing value right now. And I have a chart, like it basically tells me like how value proof they are. He's coming at like almost 75%. So like I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to him at 6.8K. I think people, they'll be worried about, are they gonna be able to keep up with the Pittsburgh Steelers? And I get the whole, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like people fear the Pittsburgh Steelers defense like they are like a super elite defense, like
they're not.
I don't know, from Terry Bradshaw days or something, but they're not. They really aren't. Like they step up in big time moments, but their numbers are a little bit skewed. Like, is that the word, skewed?
Skewed,
I don't know if that's the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think DeAndre Swift is game script proof to me. Last week he got only 9 points, but guys, like gonna have good weeks and bad weeks. I mean, he only had two weeks of the whole year that he got under double-digit point.
Yeah, and last week he got screwed because he's kind of the king of junk time, right? He's kind of he's the Jalen Hurts of running backs, but he fumbled last week in junk time and basically screwed himself. He couldn't get his points, so that kind of hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, and then the last time Jamal Williams was out, they brought in the third string guy to get the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Just fucking with all of us.
Talk about Uncle Lenny real quick, Gerson.
To Uncle Lenny, basically, if Tom Brady gets ahead, all they're going to do is run the ball. That's all they're going to do. And I think Uncle Lenny's probably the most disrespected running back in the NFL right now.
Probably is.
It's kind of shocking, but I didn't know this. But he's actually a top 15 running back
right now.
Right? Like, it's crazy. Like,
it's crazy.
The guy that, if I were to tell you Uncle Lenny has more points than Christian McCaffrey this season, you'd probably be like, what? But he actually does. I mean, that's stupid as shit because Christian McCaffrey's been injured, but Uncle Lenny, he needs to get some respect on his name, but I'm going to have Uncle Lenny. I'm hoping for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just to blow that team out and just get ahead.
Yeah. And I left Zeke for you, Tim. Talk about Zeke.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just a bounce back spot for the whole Cowboys. Yeah, I think this is a spot where he eats. We'll talk about it later, but the Denver Broncos clearly had a plan last week to stop Zeke, play man on the Cowboys receivers, and force Dak to beat them in the first game back, and he just couldn't do it. He was throwing balls late. He was throwing balls short. It was obviously an ugly game for him. Atlanta obviously plays a lot more zone. I think that they're going to just absolutely set up for a huge game for Zeke. Going into last week, he was averaging 26 points at home. They're 9-point favorites at home. Just he checks all the boxes this week. Yeah. And at $7K, they didn't adjust his price, even though he was a ton of ownership because he had a bad game. So I think you can go right back to him, man.
Yep.
I think he's in an absolute excellent spot. He's projecting for me close to 3 times value. So, I mean, we have so many good running back plays. I don't know what you have for ownership for him, Gerson, but he won't be nearly as owned as he would have been if it wouldn't have been just the best running back slate of all time. So
yeah.
Normally he'd be in an absolute smash spot here, but now he ends up being a mid-tier value. So it's just kind of that week for running backs.
Agreed.
No, he's actually one of the highest owned. He's the second highest owned. Yeah, he's 23% owned. So
that's surprising to me. Okay, I think
the number one guy is that value running back. I don't know who can talk about him.
Just go ahead. Go right into it.
Go ahead. That's a transition right there, Gerson.
I mean, I don't play Showdown very often, but when I do, Deanna Johnson is the motherfucker that carried me to the top.
He's my captain. That's right.
Yeah, he was my captain. I think I won $2,000, $3,000, or something like that when he played against the Denver Broncos.
Nice.
I mean, Deanna Johnson, this guy, his biggest game of the year was against the Denver Broncos. He had 146 yards. He averaged 6.6 yards per carry, and he had 2 receptions, 22 yards. But here's the way I put it. Dude, you're not going to get any Dimitri going. You're not going to get any Nick Chubb. Can you name the backup running back behind Deanna Johnson? I'm pretty sure Jeff can, but nobody else can. So, but it's just, to me, it's this volume is king, and his price tag is incredible. His value is smashed my value meter. I don't even know how to say it. He was at 106% value.
Wow.
And I was like, crazy. What the fuck? How is this possible? But when I saw he was 4.7K and he coming in at 24% ownership, basically 25 actually, 25% ownership, and I have him projected for 19 points. Dude, it doesn't get any better than that. What do we call it?
A free square. I was going to say there's not many free squares anymore, but he's a free square.
He's a free square, for sure.
Thank you, Tim.
I knew what you were talking about. So I just want to piggyback on that because going into today, and I'm not saying he's not. Going into today, he was the clear free square. And then Alvin Kamara got rolled out, and now Mark Ingram at 4,500 is right there. So we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. I think we're going to see a lot of lineups, particularly in cash games, that are Dearness Johnson, Mark Ingram, and then Jonathan Taylor, Naji Harris, and then we'll talk about it with wide receivers. But I think that's where a lot of people are going to go so they can pay up at quarterback and pay up at wide receiver.
He means he's going to talk about the wide receiver, not me and Jeff.
No, I won't. But that's what I'm saying. I think that this just totally broke the slate. Turned it upside down, if you will, because those 4K running back values are just everything on DraftKings. And go ahead.
I just want to add to this. So, I've seen this happen many, many times. Value running back. Oh my gosh, everybody goes to it, right? Oh, this guy's so cheap. This guy's so cheap. I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. There's 3 rules to this. Volume is key. Number 1. Number 2, game script. Number 3, make sure you make a story out of your lineup. Like, how can this go?
Make it make sense.
Can Mark Ingram actually catch these footballs? Who's the Travis Simeon can make it to while I think Mark Ingram's a good value, it can really backfire on you, and it can go with any.
Go ahead. I agree, but I think that there are a lot of things that are up in the air, and this is actually a game I wanted to talk more about. Jeff and I talked about it a little bit pre-show, is that right now A.J. Brown is very questionable. Julio Jones is very questionable, and even Ryan Tannehill is questionable. So all of those things could very much change by Sunday, where this sets up as a slate where Mark Ingram is the only play in this whole game.
Yeah.
And at that point, the game script completely favors him.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I looked this up. New Orleans is one of the basically tied for tops in adjusted line yards. So if the Titans can't put up a bunch of points, if their wide receivers are banged up, I think that they could just run Mark Ingram 20-plus times. And at 4,500, that's just so hard to ignore. I know he doesn't get a lot of use in the pass game, but I don't see the Titans being able to get far enough out and ahead of them where they just throw the ball 40 times with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, agreed. Another one of those guys, if you want to pivot off of the guys we just talked about, Ingram or Deanna Johnson, is Singletary. As long as Zach Moss is ruled out at 4.7 versus the Jets. It's only if Moss is out. I don't want to touch him if Moss is playing for sure. If you look at week 1 of Singletary, I think Moss was out that first week, and we saw how much use Singletary had in that week 1 game. It could be very similar in this game as well, especially if the Bills get up big, they run the ball, it'll be all Singletary getting the carries there. So Singletary at 4.7 I like. And then Brandon Bolden was the other guy I had, but again, only if Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris are both out. They're still in concussion protocol. We still don't know if they're going to play or not. If they are both ruled out, it'll be Brandon Bolden and J.J. Taylor, who's like 150 pounds. I think Tim could probably light him up. So I don't see him getting a ton of carries. He might get some catches, but Brandon Bolden will be pretty good at 4.4 as well against Cleveland. All right. Did we talk about all the running backs? Oh, we did have James Conner there, too. I wanted to make sure we put everybody out there that we had on our list.
Oh,
we got James
definitely.
Conner.
We mentioned Cordell Patterson, right?
Yeah, Tim talked about
Cordell
Patterson.
definitely.
Yep.
I thought Tim mentioned him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so we want to make sure
good call on Conner. I mean, Conner would have been chalk if it wouldn't have been for all these injuries.
Yep, agreed.
It's crazy how the slate changes because you were like 6,300 in this game script against Carolina. Yeah, I want some of that, but with Kyler back and Mark Ingram opening up, I don't think it'll be nearly as popular. So,
agreed.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
All right, let's get to the
running back.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Gerson, before I hit the drop. You do it every week.
For running backs, just play the best guys and hope for the best.
All right.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, so let's get to the elite tier. And Tim, you didn't want to talk about this guy, right? Do you want to talk about your elite guy? No, he doesn't want to talk about it.
I will, yeah, I will, because
Okay.
we talked about it a little bit earlier. This is where I was going to talk about it. I do think Aaron Rodgers will return this week. And against Seattle, I think that this is going to be a huge game for Davonte Adams. Gerson talked about it earlier, and I couldn't agree more. He doesn't like the narrative around him right now. He has a chip on his shoulder. He wants the narrative to be how he came out and scored 4 touchdowns, and 3 of them went to Davonte Adams. So at 7,900, I've talked about this on previous weeks. This is a guy that should be 8,000 plus every week, pushing 9,000. He had one bad week with Jordan Love and that embarrassment in Kansas City. So he's just way cheaper than he should be. And on this slate, he seems to me like somebody you got to pay up for.
Did you see his comment on OBJ where he says if OBJ comes here, he's like, what did he get? He got one catch for 6 yards last week. As long as he's okay with getting 2 catches for 12 yards, he can come here. I love that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody is happier than Davonte Adams because last week he just looked so frustrated. Man.
Agreed.
So
all right.
No love for Jordan Love?
No. Yeah, no love for Jordan Love. J-Lo. I call him J-Lo. All right, Gerson, you got someone in your top tier there. I actually have this guy as a mid-tier guy, but I do think he's going to be a pretty chalky play, so he's probably still an elite play. Talk about Mr. Deontay Johnson.
Well, I'm just saying, J-Lo got like fucking 7 ex-boyfriend, but okay. No, man, like Deontay Johnson. I've been a Deontay Johnson truther for 3 years now. I swear to God on this show, but I love Deontay Johnson, and with the Chase Claypool news, I think it elevates him to like an elite value. And in case people don't know this, we have on our sheet, we have top tier, mid tier, and value tier, and Deontay Johnson is just a top tier for me. I can't see him not getting more than 10 targets. I can't see him get more than 15 points, not less than 15 points. And the thing is, for this week, Big Ben, he's in a good spot. I think they're going to pepper him with targets, and his price tag is just incredible, for what he's going to get for his volume. And, I mean, while people don't like the whole narrative of Big Ben, he's old, he's washed up. I don't think he is. I mean, I still think he has a little bit in him, but my core is gonna be Deontay, not Naji Harris. What's his name? I just had the
JT.
List. So I was going. Yeah. So no, I was trying to go basically my core of Dak Prescott at running back, Deanna Johnson and Deontay Johnson. I'm not trying to say Johnson. We're not going to do a law firm here. But, and then damn Arnold, and then you just build around them. Honestly, I think I love Davonte Adams, like Tim said, but in cash game, that's probably the way I'm going to go. But at 6.8K against Detroit Lions, one of the worst defense in the league, if not the worst defense, I wouldn't be shocked if this team they're the first team ever to go 0-18.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. They're one of the. I think they're the first to go 0-16, or was it Tampa Bay? I can't remember who went 0-16 first.
They're going to be the first team to go 0-18.
Yeah,
0-17.
17. So I have 2 guys on my top tier that we hadn't talked about yet, and these guys are really just more tournament plays. And Terry McLaurin is one of them at 7.6, and he's more of my bring back candidate. If you're going to stack that game with Tom Brady and Mike Evans, I think McLaurin's who you want to bring back in that game. And Stephon Diggs at 7.5, I'm just going to keep playing him until it happens. We keep saying it every week. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just keep playing him. It's going to happen eventually. Hopefully it's this week against the Jets at 7.5. So those are 2 guys I think are good tournament plays, probably lower ownership. We'll move down into the mid-tiers, and we'll go to you first, Tim. Who do you got for your mid-tiers?
Yeah, this guy might as well be a top-tier play this week, and that's Mike Evans. With Antonio Brown out, Gronk out, Chris Godwin hurt, may not play, he just sets up in such a good spot against the Washington football team. I almost said it. 6,900, he almost seems too cheap. I'm going to have a lot of him. I think if you're paying above 7K, the only guy I really like is Davonte Adams, but most of my ownership will be around Mike Evans and Deontay Johnson in this range. I think they just both set up as such good plays with the other guys that are out. And we mentioned it earlier, Washington last in the league against wide receivers, so no better spot.
Yeah, they're last in the league in a whole lot of categories on defense, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Gerson, who do you got for your mid-tier? Are you on mute? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I had a burp in case you guys don't want to hear that. No.
Thank you.
No. Thank you. I think. No, I mean, I love that Mike Evans call. I think he's going to be one of the. I'm telling you guys right now, this slate going to be looking very straightforward. You're going to go from Dak Prescott, and I'm not trying to give out a lineup here, guys, Dak Prescott at quarterback. Maybe some Darn Arnold at tight end. Jonathan Taylor, Deanna Johnson at running back. Maybe Mr. Deontay Johnson at wide receiver. And then Mike Evans. And then we're just going to go to average Amari. Like,
Average Amari.
Average Amari. Like, we deal with this so many times, but when CD Lamb is worth more than average Amari, I'm like, is it really worth that different in price? Because like I think they're almost the same kind of skill set or whatnot. But Amari Cooper at 18% ownership right now. I mean, that's pretty high. I think the field agree with us. Like, he's a pretty good value. But to me, he's coming at almost 65% value on my sheet. But to me, it's this week, you're going to have so much value at running back, you're going to be allowed to pay up at wide receiver. Even if it's average, Amari, or the mid-tier, or the elite tier, that you're not going to have to really dig down. And spoiler alert, our value wide receivers, we're not going to give a shit about them.
Yeah, there's
That's
not a whole lot.
truth.
So the only guy I have in my mid tier we hadn't talked about yet, and I just put him here pretty much every week, and that's Keenan Allen at 7,000. What does he got to do to be above 7K? I don't think he's been above 7K all year. He just keeps on producing. Had a monster game last week. Great matchup versus Minnesota at 7,000. You just plug him in. He's always my my one-off receiver. So I'll stack. I'll have my quarterback, my receiver, my bring back, and then just plug Keenan Allen in because he's just consistent as hell. So at 7K, I love me some Keenan Allen. Tim, you got one more. Go ahead.
You won money because of it, so
I did.
props
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
Exactly right. Yeah, when in doubt, just play
I
Keenan
didn't win
Allen.
shit.
Yeah, Keenan Allen
Yeah.
saved. I always talk to Aaron, one of our listeners, all during the week in our cash game lineups, and I talked to him around 3:00, and I'm like, man, my day's done. All I had left is Keenan Allen, and then Keenan Allen just went out and had a monster game and saved my whole cash lineup, saved my whole day. So props to Keenan on that one.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking story, Jeff. But you know who was doing the same thing at this time? Jason, but the opposite way. He's actually saying, "Fuck you, dude. How dare you to trade this Keenan Allen to fucking Tyler? I just lost because of you." So in the same league that we play in, he fucking came back to me because I made a trade for Dalvin Cook, and he goes, "Fuck you. How dare you to give this guy to him?" And I'm like, dude, like, bro, like, I'm not going to just donate my money. I'm going to compete.
Yep, exactly, 100%. Tim, talk about Pittman
Yes.
real quick.
I will. Yeah, I like Michael Pittman this week a lot. I think we talked about it earlier with the Carson Wentz love, but I think it's just how bad the Jaguars are. I don't care about Mr. Navy Midshipman. The Jaguars defense is terrible. You can pick on them through the air. And my favorite thing about Pittman is it seems like him and Wentz have a real connection down the red zone.
Yep.
That's obviously what we're targeting. We saw a couple of weeks ago he had 2 targets inside the 10. 2 touchdowns inside the 10. So I think this sets up as another good spot for him. Everybody wants to go Taylor. Pittman will be popular, but I think he'll be less popular, like we said, because people will be mostly paying up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also people have asked me about T.Y. Hilton cutting into Pittman's workload. I think T.Y. Hilton probably helps Pittman a little bit, pull some coverage away from him. So I think actually Pittman could be better with T.Y. Hilton on the field as well.
Yeah, and they're not targeting T.Y. in the red zone, and that's what's so important. If you want that spike game, you need multiple touchdowns.
Agreed.
Pittman's that guy.
Agreed. All right, let's get down to the ugly value tier that we've got here. I'll go to you first, Gerson. Give me one of your value tier guys here.
I mean, to be honest with you guys, I don't even want to talk about it, but if I had to, it's Jarvis Landry. I mean, 23. I don't even know how the hell he's 23% owned on DraftKings, but
because he's the only one there besides Johnson right now.
Yeah, no. So basically right now, based on the model that I have, he's coming up about 23% owned on DraftKings. But I mean, I have him projected for 14 points. So at 5.2K, he's meeting almost 3 times value. Almost, he's not meeting it for my scale. But it's just, I can't tell you guys, like, the value wide receiver we're going to mention right now, like,
you don't feel good about it. Yeah, you don't feel good about it. Tim, which one?
I didn't want to give it out. I didn't want to give it out. You know, like it's just Jeff Lambert. Like he put the gun to my head every week.
Gotta have a value. You gotta have a value.
Put something in here, or if you don't, I'm gonna kick you off the show.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to talk about a value guy that I actually think is a solid play. This is a guy that DraftKings just refuses to raise his price, regardless of his salary, and that's Cole Beasley at 5.2K. His last 3 weeks, 11 targets, 13 targets, 9 targets. I mean, if he was anybody else, he'd be a 6K plus receiver. And I was looking at this earlier. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley would basically have the same target share, I would have said that was crazy. So, I mean, you're getting a guy at 2,500 less. Yes, he is my brother, Cole Beasley. This is a guy that we've had, over time. People used to call him the king of dust or whatever. He had 24 points 2 weeks ago. He's been on a couple Millie Maker teams. So, I mean, I just think at 5,200, and we talked about this before, but you target Jets in the slot. This is a team that gives up a lot of points, obviously, to running backs, but they also give a lot of points up over the middle. That's where Cole Beasley operates. You're talking about a guy, like I said, looking at 9 to 10 targets for 5,200. That's just way too cheap. So if I do have to pay down, if I am looking for a guy in this range, he's definitely my favorite, and he gives you some access to that 30-point total of Buffalo.
I love it.
Well, if I could pick a Hispanic football player that looks like me too, I would, but I can't find one guy.
Yeah. So the only value guy that I had Beasley as well with his a massive amounts of targets, but I have Gallup at 4K, which he's still listed on DraftKings as IR because he hasn't been activated yet, but he's expected to play this week. Cedric Wilson, last I heard, was also questionable. I don't know if he's going to play or not, so I do think Gallup can step into a pretty big role right off the bat. And he's one of those players, too, that, he's the big play guy. He can get that ball down the field at 4K versus Atlanta. He needs one play to basically pay off his salary. I think he can definitely get that.
And they gave him an extra week to make sure he was good to go. So yeah. I like that call a lot.
Yep, so he's definitely good to go. Tim, you got a couple more guys there you want to mention, Judy and Tyler Johnson real quick?
Yeah, I love Jerry Jeudy this week. I think he's another great play in that. He's 5,300 in that kind of Jarvis Landry, Cole Beasley range. He sets up Will coming out of the slot where he primarily works. It's a much better matchup against Philly, which is much stronger on the outside. He'll be seeing a lot more of Avonte Maddox, which I think he can beat. So I think that sets up as well. I actually really like Denver in this game. I think that this could be a sneaky good game for them. They have obviously, I guess not sneaky because of what they did against Dallas last week, but people continue to underestimate Denver, and I think that they could really show out here against the Eagles.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move down into defense, but you also had Johnson on there too, Tyler Johnson, so just want to put him
Tyler
out there.
Johnson, especially if Godwin is out, and then James Washington as a punt because Claypool is out.
Agreed. All right, let's get to the defense.
Defense.
As always, we start with Tim, the Mr. Defense. What you got for your defense this week?
Man, we talked about this is an ugly slate for many reasons, and the defensive slate is ugly this week. I think there's one team that's probably going to be extremely popular, particularly with the news of today, and that is the Tennessee Titans at 2,600. I think they're pretty much the chalk defense. You're going to see them in cash games. You're going to see them a lot of in tournaments. They've been playing really well over the last couple of weeks. This looks like a misprice, particularly as DraftKings knew that they'd probably be going against Trevor Siemian. So my only other two defenses I put is, since there is so much value, I think you can pay up this week. And they actually came up really good as a value for me, which is crazy to say for a pay-up defense. But the Arizona Cardinals at home against P.J. Walker and the Carolina Panthers. Cardinals have just been really, really strong on defense this year. I've recommended them multiple times. They're having over 10 points in multiple games. That's what you're looking for when you're pay up, for them to have that kind of spike week that separates you in GPPs. So those are kind of be the two main defenses that I'm going to be playing.
Let me ask you real quick, Tim, because I don't have my list either, and I didn't really think about it until you started talking about this game with Tennessee. Just assume that all of those guys are out. Does that put the Saints defense in play? If it's no Tannehill,
Yes.
no AJB, no Julio?
Yeah, I think Tannehill plays, and I think that's the biggest, obviously, piece, right? If he plays, I don't think that I would go that other way. But if Tannehill is out, I think Saints D becomes kind of lock and load. We know Sean Payton will put a game plan together. That's why I like Mark Ingram. That's what he does. We saw it in the game against Mac Jones earlier in the year. So he finds, these game plans, finds these ways to exploit teams. So I would definitely pivot to the Saints.
All right. And Tim, or Gerson, you had basically the same guys that Tim had. Anything you want to add to those defenses?
Well, I thought you were going right back to Tim. It don't matter. No, I mean, that's good calls. I'm gonna be honest. I do think all those tiny guys that are questionable, they're gonna play.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will too. I was just giving sort of a worst case scenario. If there's Sunday morning, they're all like, "Oh, we're leading the AFC right now. Let's just rest these guys, get them better, and just take a week off." Then I think the Saints defense is a lock. But I do think they all play. I think you're right there.
But that Titan defense at 2.6K, like running back Deanna Johnson, Titan 2.6K, like you can pay up for everywhere else.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like even Dak Prescott. I mean, it's so cheap. I mean, it's just. I think this is one of the most straightforward slate, but it's also like one of the most like you have to think about like the way you're gonna build your roster.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, there's value here, there's value there, but you have to put a lot of strategy into it.
Yep, 100% agree. All right.
Before we move on, I will mention we'll talk. I've liked this game a lot, but it seems like every time we really like a game, it seems to go the other way. So another GPP option at defense I like is the Vikings. At 2,300. Just completely punt and pay up for literally everything else.
Yeah, I like that call as well. I actually had them on my list there, and I thought you had mentioned them, but I guess not. So yeah, I think the Vikings is another play that I like just because it's so cheap. Playing against the Chargers is a tough matchup for them, but I do think that they can do enough on defense to pay off that salary.
Yep.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Tim, we'll go to you first here. Give me your stack of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to steal your boy, Mr. Consistency, Keenan Allen, and stack him, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and I'm going to come back with Dalvin Cook. I mentioned during running backs, he's one of my favorite plays this week because I think most people will play Taylor or Harris. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Cook. Hope that I can get a little bit different in the rest of the lineup and get all the way to the top.
Good stuff. Gerson just took a potty break, so I guess I'm giving my stack next. So I have probably a pretty chalky GPP stack, and that's going to be Tom Brady with Mike Evans, bringing it back with Terry McLaurin. If you want to go cheaper, you can probably put who's the tight end? I can't think of his name right now for the football team.
Oh, Seals Jones?
Yeah, Seals Jones. Thank you. You could throw him in there instead of Terry.
I was going to say go the other way. I like the idea of throwing in O.J. Howard to be a little bit different.
Fair point.
Brady, Evans, Howard, come back with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Or J.D. McKissick if you want to get really different.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Gerson, you're back from your potty break. Who you got for your stacks?
Dak Prescott, Cooper Kupp, Lamb, and Kyle Pitts. And then I'll give you guys a couple hints. We already talked about the value running back and one stud running back, and you can figure out the rest of the roster.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the final segment of the night.
And now, the sick call of the week.
All right, so last week is the first week since week 2 that none of us hit on the sick call. Every week between there, at least one of us hit on a sick call. It was a bad week.
Oh, way to call me out, Jeff. Way to call me out. Thanks a lot.
We all suck.
It was just an ugly week in general. Yeah,
it was hard to pick a sick call to begin with.
Just flush it.
Yeah, just flush it down the toilet. Let's just get to our new sick call. And I'll go to you first, Tim.
Yeah, so I had a hard time finding a sick call because I thought there was so much value on this slate. So I wanted to do something a little bit different here. Because nobody, I think, will be playing this guy because there are so many other good running back plays in that same price range. Plus, he's splitting time. But this guy has been absolutely killing the NFC East this year, and that's Melvin Gordon at 5,300. This is a guy everybody expected by this point in the season. Javonte Williams would have taken that job, but they continue to use Melvin Gordon. He ate up the Cowboys last week. And one thing I really like is that they continue to use him in the red zone. He had 4 red zone carries last week. He had 2 the week before. They've targeted him in the red zone as well. So that usage is what you're really looking for when you're trying to separate. So I don't think anybody will be playing him. I think he has 20-plus point upside. And, that's what you're looking for to get different.
I like it. We had a few sick calls in the chat. Shalom, I think that's how you say it. He said it in the chat. I hope that's how you say it. His sick call is Noah Fant gets 30 points this week. Joe has his
Holy fucking shit. What?
Noah Fant, 30 points. That's what he said.
Yep. And then Joe's got his sick call. Mike White throws for 300 passing yards this week. So those are 2 sick calls in the chat.
Did y'all see that story about Mike White and Zach Wilson, by the way?
I did not.
Man, okay, so apparently during the end of that Bengals-Jets game, the crowd was chanting, Mike White, Mike White, Mike White, right? So then the team started chanting Mike. So every time he walks in, they start chanting his name. Zach Wilson can't fucking stand it. Like, he's like, all right, guys, come on. We gotta let this go sometime. And he's like, oh, man, I can't imagine what it's like to be Zach Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Brutal.
They ain't wrong. Hey, if Jeff knows it, what did I say about Zach Wilson, Jeff, in your dynasty in the offseason?
You didn't like him. I remember you talking about him. You disliked him more than pretty much anybody. All right, Gerson, what do you got for your sick call?
So for my sick call this week, like, it was hard for me. Like, I didn't know. I at least changed it like 3 times, but I think I was very surprised how low owned he was. John Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, his price is so cheap. I think it's 2.6K. I think for me, it's John Smith like
2.5. He's the bare minimum.
2.5, like bare minimum. Dude, like. With sick calls, we just try to look for the guys, the cheapest of the cheap, to get you good value.
They're dart throws.
Johnny Smith is, to me, this week, sick call of the week. I don't feel great about it, but I think that's the way I have to feel about it when it's a sick call.
Yeah, it makes you feel sick.
If he gets, let's say, a touchdown, one touchdown in like 30 yards, it's hidden value. Yeah,
they were talking about that on the radio today too, and you were talking about the running backs that were all hurt for that team, and John was lined up in the backfield a couple of times for Tennessee, so maybe they put Jonnu back there in the red zone kind of option, and he gets a rushing touchdown this week because he's definitely done that before. So my sick call, and I had a hard time finding one. This point in the season is so hard to find them because DraftKings does a very good job of putting these guys with the right price points. But my guy is Eno Benjamin at 4.4 versus Carolina. I think they still want to sort of split the workload with James Conner because we had some injury history. I think Eno will get enough workload. And he had a run last week that I don't know if y'all saw it, but he literally trucked the guy that was trying to tackle.
He fucking trucked the shit out of him.
It was brutal. It was brutal. At 4.4, Eno Benjamin I think gets enough workload to do something. He might score a touchdown too, maybe at the if he gets down into the red zone. But so that's my sick call, 4.4 Eno Benjamin. All right, that wraps the podcast up, guys. Once again, another great podcast. Let's go around the room. Give us your Twitter handle and where we can find you at on Facebook on Sundays, Tim.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Keto DFS. That's KETO DFS. You can also find me at the DFS Armchair Roundtable Facebook group. Every week I have a thread going in there with a lot of good information. Jason puts up a lot of polls as well, so definitely get in there. We have discussion all the way up until lock when we're all watching Gerson on, or at least watching Gladys anyway, on the Sunday show.
Gerson.
Hey. 1 week I was really late. Good God. No, you can find me on Twitter at Davonte DFS. You can find me on the Friday show like tonight. I hope you're watching. If you're not, then you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And then you can find me on the Sunday show in the morning at whatever time Jeff's gonna tell you, because I had to deal with daylight saving time last week. No, I'm fucking with you guys. Just 2 hours before the show. 2 hours, 1 hour.
I think it's 11 a.m. I think is when y'all go live now.
Yeah. And with Gladys, Hamid, not Hamid, congratulations.
I gotta put it in the show sheet for you. I said I was gonna do that last week, but I forgot. I'm gonna put it on the show sheet so you can remember.
Dude, bro,
Eric, Evan, and Gladys and Gerson are on the Sunday morning show. Hammond used to be on. Unfortunately, fortunately for us, but fortunately for him, he got a better job and couldn't do it anymore. But so they talk season long. Gerson comes on, does his about 20 minutes of DFS, gives you the answers to the test, as he likes to say. So definitely check that out on Sunday mornings. Obviously, guys, you can follow me as always on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We have shows pretty much every night of the week on the Going for Two Live network, so make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, or if you're watching us on Twitch, make sure you subscribe over there. For Tim, for Gerson, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week, and good luck. Peace.
I don't know if Tim knows this, but he was on mute. Go Raiders!